So in this segment, we're going to be talking about Boris Johnson's rural fury over post-Brexit food strategy. So this is to do a lot with the subsidies, etc., especially when Boris Johnson's facing two key by-elections coming up. One, I believe, is in the Red Wall in Wakefield, and another one is in Triverton and Horniton, which is coming up very soon. And we'll talk about the elections coming up as well a bit in this video. Triverton and Horniton is an unfortunate name given what their MP did. Probably should rename it to slightly something else, but I'm not going to do that in this video because videos be PG. But Boris Johnson's hopes of surviving as Prime Minister have been dealt a serious blow after farmers and environmentalists condemned his post-Brexit food strategy as a disaster. I mean, he's gotten rid of subsidies, he's killed off their export market in the EU, and he's forcing them to compete with countries that have lower food standards than us in Australia. Bro, come on, man, that's ridiculous. Especially when our exports to the EU face physical checks and EU exports to us don't. Farmers are being undercut, in a way by the EU as well. So I'm not blaming the EU for that, I'm blaming the British government for that. So in an interview with The Observer, the president of the National Farmers Union, Minette Batters, who someone I have a lot of respect for, said ambitious proposals to help farmers increase food production first put forward by the government have been stripped to the bone in a new policy document and meant farmers would not be able to produce affordable food, and then if farmers can't produce affordable food, people won't buy it, and what supermarkets will do, they'll just start importing more and more cheaper food, and what that will do is just keep undercutting farmers and force them to go under. Batters said she had told the Prime Minister on Friday that farmers, including those in the West Country seats of Triverton and Horniton, where a crucial by-election will be held on the 23rd of June, were furious with post-Brexit policies that they believed would make them poorer and leave them unable to compete with foreign producers, which is true. These farmers need the subsidies. I mean, they voted against their own best interests, let's be honest. The by-election caused by the resignation of Tory MP Neil Parish for watching really dodgy videos in Parliament. Not going to go on. It says what he did there. It's seen as critical to Boris Johnson's chances of remaining in Downing Street, because let's not forget, Boris Johnson's main selling points are his electability, right? That he can win in the blue seats and win in the red wall seats. If he loses this seat in Trivington, he proved he can't win back Tory heartlands, and if he loses in Wakefield, he proves that he can't win in the red wall either. Very, very scary situation. The Liberal Democrats are trying to sorry if you can hear like some spoon noises in the background, I can't help that. The Liberal Democrats are trying to overturn a Tory majority of 24,000 in what would be seen as one of the biggest by-election shocks of recent times. Now, by-elections are often used as protest votes, can be used as protest votes by those constituencies. We've seen the Lib Dems win some Tory seats more recently. Chesham and Amersham would be one of them. But if we have a look at the history of Trivington and Horniton, you can see Neil Parish won by a very large amount there, a stonking majority over his contenders. And if we look back, even in 2017, again, he won over 20,000 votes compared to his second place person. And if you look even further back, he's won by, again, around over 20,000 over his UKIP rival. So it's a huge gap for the Lib Dems and Labour Party. I find it interesting it's the Lib Dems who are going after this seat rather than the Labour Party. When the Lib Dems have become third consistently over the last few years, even fourth back in 2015. So it's a bold strategy from the Lib Dems. I'm assuming that essentially the Labour Party are going to give the Lib Dems a free shot in Horniton and Trivington, and the Lib Dems are going to give the Labour a free shot in Wakefield. But I can't really confirm that because there's nothing formal, which is fine. I'm okay with that. If the Conservatives were to lose this election to the Lib Dems and Labour to retake Wakefield on the same day, many Tories believe that Johnson would be unable to survive as Prime Minister. If they held off their no confidence vote until after the by-election, I think they would have won. But instead they pulled the trigger too early because they had no idea what they were doing. Last night, farmers in the West County seat said the agricultural community would be voting en masse against the Tories. Again, that's a huge problem for them. It's evident why the farmers are doing so, but this won't be long term. And that's something that might suit Boris Johnson. The farmers say this was because they were facing a combination of a loss of income from subsidies and pressure to prioritise environmental over food production when the country needed to become more self-sufficient in food, because we're not very self-sufficient in food, and at the end of the day there's good food rotting in the fields because there's no one to pick them because we have no freedom of movement. Batter said she was pleased to see a commitment on food security, but added the original strategy had been stripped to the bone and there was no plan left on how to implement its overall aims. And that's a key point there that she's made that not enough people make, which is, yes, it's fine to say, oh, we want to have better food security. How are you going to achieve that? And the Tories are like, oh, I don't know, bro, we're just going to, better food security in that, better food security will do it. That's all they'll say. It's ridiculous saying we want to be eating more British food and more local food, but again, I ask how. With British food, I'm not too bothered, but local food, yes, I would rather eat more local food and more stuff in season. It's all very well to have words, but it's got to have real meaningful delivery, and we aren't seeing that yet in this document. And it's okay, you need aims and objectives, but one is used to achieve the other. The government has one but not the other, therefore they will never achieve their overall goals. Batter said she met Johnson on Friday, told him that farmers wanted to be supported to produce food as well as help the environment. She said that is what farmers in Triverton wanted to see. Farmers want the detail, she said. That at present there was no clear policy. And again, the only clear policies are undercutting farmers via subsidies, getting rid of their biggest export market, and just causing absolute chaos when it comes to everything else. Farmers have become increasingly disenchanted, having been promised that their previous EU subsidies would be replaced in full after Brexit. Instead, they are being gradually phased out, with their basic payments being cut by 20% this year. And they'll see that, they'll physically see the amount they've lost from the former EU subsidies. And if they vote for the Tories again, then they deserve it. They deserve everything that they get, which is massive financial losses. In addition, they say the scheme intended to pay them for adopting green policies, such as planting trees and hedges, was very confusing. I've spoken about that before. It's a very weird policy. Jake Finnes, a sustainable farmer, said it's rather a weak 27-page document that says nothing. I see the farming sector disappointed. I see the environmental ambition down. So essentially, the government promised big but delivered little. The Tory way, the Johnson way. Food security and environmental resilience are the challenges of this generation, and it is so depressing. And he's right, that the next challenges we're going to face are really, really bad, and the government are doing nothing to really help. John Westcott, a beef and sheep farmer from Brampton near Triverton, I'm not sure if he's one of these potential voters, him saying most farmers would be voting against the Tories not because they wanted to for the long term. So essentially this is a protest vote from the farmers, and they might protest in this by-election and also in the next general election just because they want to show the Tories they're not happy, but because their policies were not doing anything to help them and were harming their businesses. So effectively, had the government kept the subsidies, I think they probably would have kept a lot of support from farmers, but at the end of the day, they got rid of it. Tim Farron, the former Lib Dem leader, who's very awkward, but I think he's gotten a bit of redemption in himself, is now the party's rural affairs spokesman, said the government strategy is timid and represented no real change, which, again, that's the Tory way. Henry Dimbleby was commissioned by the government to produce a review which would tackle the obesity crisis as well as the affordability of healthy food. Again, healthy food is really expensive in the UK. His ambitious recommendations, including expanding free school meals, which, having free school meals is great for a ton of reasons. 30% reduction in meat and dairy consumption, good luck with that, pal. And giving strong protection to British farmers by not undermining them in trade deals with other countries have not been adopted. So effectively, the report commissioned by the government, they're not even going to listen to, because that's the Tory way. Doing anything to help the people in this country, no. Doing stuff to hurt them, yes, that's the Conservative Party way, especially this most recent iteration of them. But what you can see from this is, farmers are finally turning on Boris Johnson about goddamn time. And I hope the Tories lose their seat in Hornington and Trivington, or Trivington and Hornington, and in Wakefield, because that's really going to put the cat amongst the pigeons, and that's going to cause absolute chaos within the Conservative Parliamentary Party and within CCHQ. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.